Hey guys, Mr. Backward here. In this video, we're going to look at classifying triangles. So as we're looking at classifying triangles, there are two different ways that we can classify triangles. And the first way we're going to look at involves looking at the angles within the triangle. Now there are three classifications based on the types of angles that we see within our triangle. And the first classification is being an acute triangle. And in order for a triangle to be acute, all of the angles inside of the triangle have to be acute. The next type of triangle that we can look at is a right triangle. And remember, for a right angle, for a 90-degree angle, we usually put a box in the corner to indicate that we're dealing with a right angle. So in a right triangle, you're going to have one right angle. And then your other two angles are going to be acute angles. And then the last type of triangle that we could have is an obtuse triangle. And in an obtuse triangle, you're going to have one angle in there that opens up past 90 degrees, one obtuse angle. And then along with that obtuse angle, you're going to have two acute angles. So those are the three angle classifications that we can give to a triangle. The other way of classifying a triangle is by looking at its sides. Now, when we're talking about sides, we put dash marks on sides if they are congruent, if they're the same size. And if you've got a triangle where all three sides are congruent to each other, then we call that triangle equilateral. Now, in an equilateral triangle, because all the sides are congruent to each other, all of the angles are actually going to be congruent to each other as well. The next type of triangle that we could have, let's say we only have two congruent sides. If you've got a triangle with two congruent sides, we call that isosceles. So let's say these two sides are congruent, and I'm going to put two dash marks on this bottom side to show that it's not congruent to those other two. Now, similar to what we saw in our equilateral triangle, when we had all three sides being congruent to each other, all three angles were also congruent. In an isosceles triangle, if you have two congruent sides, then you're also going to have two congruent angles, and it's the angles across from those congruent sides that are congruent to each other. So an isosceles triangle has two congruent sides. And then our last type of triangle that we could have, all three sides could be different lengths. So I've marked all three sides differently to show that they're all different lengths. If all three lengths are different, then your triangle is scalene. And if none of your sides are congruent to each other, then none of your angles are going to be congruent either. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching.